Hey, this is David for Big Bits. In this video, we're going to take a look at some updates on some scripts that I've done on TradingView, as well as the fact that one of those scripts was featured in TradingView's Best Scripts of the Month. So that's actually something really cool that I'm kind of proud of, to say that my code was featured by this very big website. So as you can see, I keep up to date with TradingView and a bunch of their scripts and stuff. They even follow me back, which is kind of nice. But they had featured me in this Best Scripts of the Month, and I will go ahead and pull that up. And I wanted to show you that this is something that the Pine Coders account does on TradingView, and they publish these every month. I believe they've been doing it since January, maybe a bit before that, but they do one every month now, where they focus on certain scripts that they have moderated, most likely, that have stuck out to them as being something kind of exceptional, or just maybe offering something a little bit different. And in this case, for my indicator, it was the fancy triple moving averages. And once this was announced, I got tons of likes on this particular indicator. And I'll go over what this indicator actually is in a minute, but as you can see, it's just triple moving averages with tons of different options, and it was nice to be included on here. And of course, they have all kinds of other ones, so if you're wanting to see some of the newest scripts from TradingView, I definitely recommend that you follow the Pine Coders account and check out their Best Scripts of the Month. They also have some good resources when it comes to some of the actual Pine script coding, like what we do with the tutorial series here on the channel. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention before we get on to that is that the April giveaway had finished, and I had posted the winner out here, and that contest is completely over. The winner was paid. They reached out pretty much immediately after I contacted them, and we are going to be doing another one in May, and the one in May might be slightly different, but I will go ahead and tell you that the answer to the first question that we're going to be adding to that giveaway is going to be that the featured script that I had was the fancy triple moving averages. So keep that in mind when I do announce that. It's probably going to be sometime later this week, hopefully sooner rather than later. So be looking out for that. If you haven't already, follow me on Twitter or also join the Discord. I usually keep up to date with those fairly well. Otherwise, you'll probably see something about it on a video soon here as well. Now let's go to the chart, and I wanted to show you an update on several things that I've done lately, but most importantly, I wanted to first look at the triple moving averages. And if you haven't seen these indicators, I have something that's called a highlight inclusion. So this is a 50 period moving average, and the lighter green part is the part that is included in the calculation. So this uses the 50 period look back and highlights all of those candles, so that you'll know what candles and what prices were actually included in the calculation for that particular moving average. And the same goes for this one and this one as well. So you have a 50, 100, and 200 moving average by default. Now you can also select the resolution, the data source, the moving average type, and also the candle type, which allows you to change the chart type to Renko, line break, any of these. Now some of them don't really play well on certain chart types. Like if you're using this one and you choose like point and figure, it may not actually work. But one of the things that I did fix just today on an update for that particular script was if you were to select to make this resolution on the 1 hour, which it is now, it would have continued to only highlighted the 50 most recent candles. So back about here again. So since I don't have the math in there set up to calculate how many bars back it needs to show on a 1 hour when you're looking at a 5-minute chart, what I've done is I just removed that. Feature entirely for different resolutions. So it'll only work with the highlight inclusions when you're using the current setting on there. Okay. Now the other update that I did was actually for alerts with this particular indicator. I'll actually pull up the code so you can kind of see what we've done. Now the code for what I did to hide that isn't really very much. It was maybe 50 characters per line, and there's maybe 4 lines that I had to update. No, there were 6 lines that I had to update total. But anyway, I've added several alert conditions, and it's really just moving average crossovers. So if you want to set alerts using these moving averages, you can actually come over here, add an alert, and then you can select based on the condition this indicator, the fancy triple moving averages, and then you'll see these particular alert conditions down there. It looks like I need to update the numbers on these in just a little bit, so I'll have to go back and do that. I must have just missed that when I was doing that, but you can select whichever condition that you want, and it will trigger an alert now. So it didn't have the alert conditions before. You would have to figure them out on your own. So I've added the moving average crossovers for the first 6, and then the second 6. Those are all based on the current price going above or below those particular moving averages. So like I said, I'll go back and I'll fix this hopefully before the video is actually released, but if it hasn't been, you'll know that it should be happening soon. Now that pretty much covers everything with the fancy triple moving averages, excuse me. So I also wanted to touch on the RSI and smooth RSI Bull Div, and I made this as a strategy before, and it was actually really good. I designed it specifically for the Bitcoin USDT chart on 5-minute candles, and that's why I have the chart pulled up on 5-minute candles. You can see, now let me hide this one, we'll talk about that one in a minute. But this strategy tries to find a bullish divergence and tries to find the most optimal spot to possibly enter into a bullish divergence long, and it's really been pretty good, minus the days where, you know, about a month ago when the coronavirus stuff really hit really hard, where Bitcoin crashed about 50% in one day. It didn't do too good then, mainly because the price dropped. It would trigger the bullish divergence, but on that particular day, the bullish divergences didn't really matter too much, and the price would just kind of continue going down. Now, most of the times it did kind of bounce where it hit that, but it would never hit the take profit, or it would hit the RSI sell, which is a condition set in there. It would hit that far after it was actually below the entry price, or it would just hit the stop loss straight up. So that one was a rough day, but for the most part since then it's been really good. Now this goes all the way back to April 3rd, so that's pretty good. We've had one losing trade since April 3rd, and you'll notice since this is on 5-minute candles, it's actually pretty selective that we've only had 9 different trades since then, and 8 of the 9 have been profitable, so that's pretty good. So because this strategy seems to be working out pretty good, I have decided to turn this into an alert, because the brokerages that are connected here and how you can use them on TradingView don't necessarily have everything that I would like. So I took the exact code from that strategy and I converted it into an indicator. Now, this will potentially fire multiple times in a row just because it's not managing a position and it doesn't know if you're already long or not. So what's going to happen is you'll see it fire and it'll show you here that BD stands for bullish divergence, that this would be possibly a good time to buy based on the RSI Bull Div indicator that I created. So what you would do is you would set an alert based on that, and let's go back to our alerts panel here. On the conditions, select our RSI and smooth RSI Bull Div indicator. Now you can see there's a condition called RSI Bull Div. Now that is the one, that is the only condition, and it always gets fired whenever you see the green labels here. It does not repaint these green labels, but it can fire multiple green labels in a row or many within a short period of time, and I believe it's doing it here. Yeah, so you can see it actually does it twice in this particular instance. So it hits here and it also hits here as well. I'm not sure why it didn't hit on this one as well, but if you had entered and got an average price, it probably would have been here, and if you were patient and your stop loss didn't get hit, you might have been able to take some profit later on using that one. Now of course none of this is financial advice, but a lot of people have liked this particular strategy on TradingView, so I wanted to provide an indicator with an alert, mainly so that I could start using it more, because it appears to be doing pretty well on these forward tests. Actually watching its performance over the previous months on the 5-minute candle, it's very selective, so that's why I thought it was pretty important to have an alert. That way, if I'm nowhere near a computer that I can actually get notified that it might be a good time to enter into a long for myself. So that's something that I've done. I don't know if I've actually published this or not. I don't think I've actually published it, but this is going to be published very soon. I think there's a couple more things I want to look at on it, but this is going to be coming out as well very soon, to where you can just add this and you can have your alert conditions and you can have your custom alerts set up on that. Now, one other thing that I wanted to discuss as far as my indicators go, I have one new one that I'm working on. Since the fancy triple moving averages was so good and it was featured and I hate to say it was so good, I mean, it's a nice indicator, but since it was featured and many people have actually liked it on TradingView, I figured it'd be a good idea to build off of that and kind of go with a theme on the fancy indicators and make fancy Bollinger Bands. Now this is very similar to the fancy triple moving averages, except we are using Bollinger Bands now. So we have a single moving average in the middle, which with Bollinger Bands is a 20 period SMA typically, and since it's a moving average, we can have our forecasting on the middle band, and then I've also added the highlight inclusion to show the upper, middle, and the lower band on the SMA that you're using for the middle band. It'll only highlight those particular candles so that you'll know what has been included in the current calculation. Now, the fill, you'll notice there's a green and red, and there's sort of four different tones, four different colors here. These represent the Bollinger Band percent. Now, that means that that is the relationship of the current price compared to the lower Bollinger Band. So if you are below the lower Bollinger Band, you're going to have a really bright red fill. Okay, you can see that right here. And if you're within the lower band and the middle band, you have a red. If you're above, you have a green. And if well, actually I think it does it in 4 quadrants. Anywhere below the lower fourth is that bright red, and anywhere within the lower middle fourth is the less bright red. And then of course you have the light green in the middle upper level, and then the upper level and beyond is the very bright green. Now these also are made a little bit more transparent with the inclusion, so that was actually kind of interesting to get the fill working on that. It wasn't quite as straightforward as the highlight inclusion for the particular moving averages, but we were able to accomplish that. Now as far as the actual settings go for this, it's actually pretty neat. Of course you can set your middle band period and all the other fancy MA stuff that we've done, such as the resolution and the candle type. But we also have the deviation multiplier. So with the Bollinger Bands, you calculate the standard deviation and you multiply it from the distance from the middle band, and of course you subtract if you want the lower band, but you add that standard deviation multiplied by its multiplier on top of it to get the upper band. So you can actually change that number if you wanted to. It'll change the width of the bands. Now I've also added the ability to use the ATR deviation instead of the standard deviation. And if you're familiar, this I believe is Keltner channels actually, but it might use a different period and maybe a different moving average. So if we wanted to change this to an EMA using the ATR, we could do that. So it's actually pretty cool. You have some different options as opposed to just your regular Bollinger Bands. I don't know if this should be called fancy Bollinger Bands, if it also is the Keltner channels, which I need to look that up. But this is actually pretty cool, because it is going to allow you to switch back and forth between the two. And of course it has the inclusions, and it allows you to do the forecast bias as well. But that is it for this video. Thank you and have a good day.